104.5 The Team, your home for New York Yankees baseball. We are very happy to be joined by MLB.com's Anthony Castrovince. Anthony, we've been having this debate over and over on the station. Should the Yankees sell? Should they buy? We kind of said sell, but now they've won 3 straight divisional opponent games. Do they sell? Do they wait? What do you think?
I think they sell, or at least they should. I really think that in the big picture, that's what this team is. It's about a 500 team that doesn't really have the pieces to make a legitimate World Series run. I mean, you think about the wild card chase, and even if they win that chase, you know, who's the guy who you feel really confident in a one-game wild card scenario? And then if you get through that, you know, how deep is the rotation? And obviously they have an ample bullpen, but you got to get them leads, and that's obviously been a problem, you know, this year. So I don't know. I just see it as a really big opportunity for this organization, just given the composition of the roster, the long-term outlook. You know, you've got really nice trade pieces in Aroldis Chapman and Carlos Beltran. You know, Chapman's value now is arguably higher than it was when the Yankees acquired him, just because there are so many teams, contending teams, good teams with good farm systems, looking for impact left-handed relief. So you could probably get nice value back for him. And Beltran, of course, had a resurgent season. So, you know, I think the bigger picture is more important than the smaller view. But obviously, you know, it's a complicated question because it's not, you know, you still want to. It's the Yankees. It's not in their DNA to sell off pieces midsummer. So I understand that.
So, Anthony, if we're all kind of in consensus for the most part, like, you know, even though they're teasing us again with some wins. Sell, but who do they sell to? Like, who are the teams right now that make the most sense as trade partners? And are there any actual trades you're looking at?
Yeah, so I mean, I mentioned we'll start with Chapman and Miller. You know, like I said, the beauty there is the, I don't want to call it desperation, but certainly there's desire in some very attractive situations there. With you look across the landscape of the National League. I mean, every contending club in the National League, pretty much. The Dodgers could use. Really help the Giants for sure. The Giants probably need closing help in particular, so that could make them particularly aggressive. The Cubs, of course, are in this you know, high expectations year. It's kind of World Series or bust. They need left-handed relief, and the Nationals in the East certainly need help in their bullpen around Jonathan Papelbon, and the Indians in the American League and the Rangers. The Astros need left-handed relief. It's like I said, it's this perfect storm of opportunity there for the Yankees from that perspective. As far as Beltran goes, that one might be a little more complicated in that, you know, there are a lot of outfield bats in this market. Jay Bruce probably leads that class. Josh Reddick, sure. But, you know, the beauty of Beltran is, you know, it's a rental, so it's the acquisition cost, you know, is not going to be as high as it is for Jay Bruce, who's under control for next year. And I think teams might gravitate towards that postseason history he has. The guy has a lot of magic in his bat in October, and that, you know, whether that's something that will continue or not, nobody knows, but it's certainly a nice option to bet on. So, and then just that veteran presence he brings as well. You know, some teams really value that. So, I don't know. I think, you know, that there's something to be said for giving a shot just for the sake of giving a shot, but I really think in the big picture, this is, as I said, you got to be opportunistic in the sport. The Yankees need young, controllable talent. They need young, controllable pitching in particular. I think this could be a good opportunity to get it.
You know, Anthony, most of us here are thinking that we'd like A-Rod to take a very early retirement summer vacation. What are your thoughts on cutting him?
Yeah, I think we're getting close to that point, right? I mean, there's probably, really for the Yankees, you look the rest of this season, or certainly next year, and there's more value to seeing what you have in a Greg Bird or an Aaron Judge than there is in trying to squeeze more life out of A-Rod's bat. That's just the way it's looked this year. You know, he had the resurgent first half last year. It really fell off in the second half, and this has been a continuation of that. And this has been more like what you expected out of A-Rod going into 2015, just given his age and the time off and all that. Bat speed, not what it once was. You know, trying to cheat on the inside fastball, it's not really working out. Really in a limited role, you know, high paid to be a part-time DH is not a great scenario. And there's no getting around the contract. We all know that. But, again, probably getting to the point where you're better off auditioning young guys rather than this guy taking up a roster spot. So I don't know. I think it's one that they'll at least take it through this season, but it could be a topic in the winter of whether it's worth going into a year with A-Rod on the roster.
Anthony Castrovince of MLB.com with us right here on 104.5 The Team, your home for New York Yankees baseball. Let's stay in New York, but let's go with the Mets. When you look at the Mets right now and all their pitching issues, are they going to be looking for people at the trade deadline?
Yeah, amazingly so. They're looking for starting pitching, and probably more of the short-term back-end variety than the guy who, because they do have control over Zach Wheeler and Matt Harvey, and those guys should be able to impact him in 2017 and beyond. But yeah, it's not something even a few weeks ago you would have expected that the Mets would be in the market for starting help. Obviously, they've kicked the tires on offensive help all year, and they've made some moves there. James Loney and Jose Reyes and bringing back Kelly Johnson. They've tried to patch up the position player side, but yeah, definitely a surprise to see them in the market for starting help. But it just goes to show how quickly that strength can become not necessarily a weakness, but certainly an area of concern in this game when guys start dropping like flies.
It seems, Anthony, like the only really healthy Mets pitcher is Bartolo Colon. What keeps him going, do you think?
Well, obviously, a guy with a PED past, that kept to his career in general. That helped him revive his career at one point. There's no getting around that. But specifically on the pitching side, what he's done is he's learned to control that fastball and to just not dominate with that pitch, but just be steady with that pitch, and to create enough movement with it and keep enough people guessing with it that he's a consistent threat to get people out. And this is not the way the Mets drew it up. They expected to perhaps in the second half shift him to the bullpen or just ease off of him. But as it turns out, with the Wheeler developments, the Harvey development, they need him in that group still. And it's one of the more fascinating figures in baseball. There's no two ways about it. He's just a strike-throwing marvel still at this old age. Anthony,
when so we approach the trade deadline. Of course, we've covered the two New York teams. What are the big blockbusters you're looking at? Is there anything that you've got a line on right now that you're keeping an eye out for?
Well, we've been talking about Kyle Schwarber for Andrew Miller for weeks, it seems, and it went from actually months, I should even say. I remember having these conversations with people back in May, and it's just kind of one of those fun ones to think about. But there might be meat on that bone, honestly. If the Yankees were to, I don't think the Cubs would do Miller for Schwarber straight up, but if the Yankees do want to talk about Miller and Chapman for Schwarber, you actually might have something there. It's not totally crazy. So, so that's certainly a fun one. And as we say all the time, this market is really thin on the starting pitching side. That's why you saw the Red Sox act as aggressively as they did for Drew Pomeranz, a guy who doesn't have much track record, obviously, but is having a strong season. They gave up one of the top pitching prospects in baseball for him. So there could be more, desperate attempts to patch up rotations there. Maybe teams surprise us and take advantage of this thin pitching market and offer names that you wouldn't necessarily think would be offered, Now, Chris Archer and Sonny Gray for sure, but it would take awful big hauls to get guys like that.
Anthony, who's the best team in baseball right now? Cubs, Giants, Nationals? What are your thoughts?
Ooh, great question. The Cubs have relief issues, but I'll still take the grand measure of what they've accomplished this season. And I know the Giants have the better record right now. I do think they've run into some issues here lately, and they had a nice string of games against sub-500 teams that helped them get to this point. But I just think that the Cubs have the deepest roster, and as they get healthier in general, certainly very dangerous. And that would have to be my pick, honestly.
Anthony Castrovince of MLB.com joining us right here, 104.5 The Team, Levack and Wolf. Anthony, thank you for helping us clean up some of this mess that is the MLB trade deadline.
All right, guys. Thanks for having me on.